something I really want to talk about is that when you're on a personal growth journey and you're doing the work or you're stepping into it, you're starting out, it's important to not romanticize this work because it's not romantic. It's not amazing, fun, perfect, exciting, going to fix everything for you. I see a lot of content online because I am chronically online and I consume a lot of content in order to just see what's going on in the online world and to, bounce ideas off of other creators. I see a lot of content about how, starting the work, the personal growth work, improving yourself, doing all these things is going to make your life somehow different, but not different in a neutral way. Different and, in this context, better. That life will now be better for you, more amazing. You'll have more money, you'll look better, you'll feel better, and obviously, yes, like that's the point of doing this work, right? It's just feeling even a little bit better, navigating your life a little bit better, feeling more content, more comfortable within yourself. Yes, that is the point of this work. However, I think sometimes we can romanticize it a bit too much. We can look at it as a savior for ourselves. It's not going to save us. That's not the point of the work. And I think we can get caught up in the idea of it making us better, but from a very ego-based place. The idea of somehow I'm not good now, and so I need to get better to then be worthy of love, care, money, survival, whatever. Put in whatever you think applies to you. I see that a lot in the content online, and this isn't to in any way hate on any other creators who talk about this stuff. If it works for them, it works for them. If that's how they want to navigate their life and view their world, that's the point, right? You can see things however you want to see things. I just think that for anybody who really wants to be, I guess, intentional with this work and wants to create change that is coming from a more authentic and aligned place, to not romanticize it. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to feel good. It's not always going to be you sitting, comfortably at your desk journaling and then doing this and then having a workout and then, and that's all very aesthetic and it's lovely. I love aesthetic things. I love pretty things. I think that is also the point of life, finding beauty in things, definitely. But the work is actually very messy. It's very ugly and it's very uncomfortable, and that's the point of it. It's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be easy and comfortable and pretty, because that defeats the purpose, right? It's this idea of once I do this work, then I'll be better and I'll be at a place where I now am worthy. It's like, no, the point of this work is to understand that you are already worthy, even in your mess. That's the point. And I say this not from judgment, because I still struggle to remember this. I still get caught up in my own perfectionism, in thinking that, okay, if I still feel this way, if I still feel messy, if I still feel imperfect, it must be that I'm not doing the work right. So when I start doing it better, then I'll be better. And even now, even in after all the years that I've been doing this work, and after all the therapy sessions I've had, after all the journaling, after all the content I've created even, I still get stuck in it sometimes because I'm human and these are my conditioned beliefs that run very, very deep within me. I forget that the point is not to be better, to get to some alternate place of experience where now I am a worthy human. I already am a worthy human. You already are a worthy human. It's about reframing the way you see yourself and looking more internally, from the inside out, not from the outside in. That's one of the first things I learned in therapy when I started, right? And I didn't understand what it meant then, and now I understand what it means. And so if you are on this journey and you're very early on in it, the point is to navigate from the inside out, which means that whatever's happening internally or who you are innately within you, that is your truth. And it's not about getting rid of that truth or denying it. It's about using it to cultivate a life that just feels externally better. It's not about using an image, an external image of what you want life to look like to make your internal self better, more worthy, and to deny the things that you consider flaws or imperfections. That is not the point at all. That's the actual opposite of the point of all this work that we're doing. Now, obviously, if you're struggling with shame, guilt, berating yourself, being mean to yourself, not showing up authentically. Yes, those are internal things, internal structures that you can and should change in many cases, because they will allow you to navigate your life and cultivate a life that's more aligned and feels better for you. But those, I think, are separate from your innate self. They are tools or beliefs or, experiences that you have been conditioned to use right now to navigate life in a way maybe that your parents did. So the life you're cultivating, there's nothing here about right or wrong, good or bad, perfect, not perfect. Like, that's not the point. It's about what feels aligned for you. So if the life that you're cultivating with the current strategies and tools that you're implementing isn't feeling good for you, then yes, you have to kind of shift that so that you feel okay existing. But not existing as a different person, existing as your authentic self, just clearing out a bit of the clutter that is confusing you about who you are. Clearing out a bit of or organizing even. Not even clearing out. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of anything. It's organizing the clutter, organizing the mess. It's okay to have a mess. We all do. Let's organize it a little bit. Let's put it in places, right? Let's have everything have a home within us so that we can better understand ourselves. That's the point. It's not about throwing anything out. It's not about completely changing our identity to be this idealized image of a person that we think is worthy. It's not about, finally making a certain amount of money and then feeling like you're worthy. That's not the point. It's about doing the things that would be respectful to you, kind to you, caring, considerate. And sometimes, those do align with more income. They do align with better physical health. They do align with more habits and routines. Sure, right. That's great. But it's about the deeper intention behind them. So when we romanticize the work and we think that the work is superficial, it is just about doing and not being, that's where I think it can get a little bit complicated and confusing, and then make us not want to do the work anymore. Because, it's easy to put on a bit of a character, right? A character of somebody who's on a personal growth journey, a character of somebody who starts journaling and is trying to feel and look better. That's great. And also, you're human. You're going to be messy. You're going to be ugly. And I don't mean that, again, in a superficial way. I mean that you're going to see parts of yourself throughout this journey that are ugly and scary and uncomfortable to experience. And the point is not to deny them. It's not to rebuke them and ignore them and shove them down. The point is to face them and to embrace them. It doesn't mean you have to act in accordance with things that are wrong in your idea of wrong is, right, with your values and morals. It's to recognize that they exist within yourself and then to make conscious decisions in alignment with those values and morals that take into consideration that, okay, this part exists in me. How do I feel about it? Do I want to act on it? How do I, where do I think it's coming from? Like, it's not about ignoring the stuff. It's not about making yourself less messy, less ugly. It's about recognizing the ugliness in you and being content and okay with it, because it's going to exist. And even if, at some point in your life, you looked at something that you consider to be ugly, quote unquote, and maybe you're not noticing it as much anymore. It's not popping up as much. Great. We love that. But there might be something else that you notice later on in life that starts popping up that's ugly. So if you're romanticizing the work and then at one point you notice this new ugly thing pop up, you're going to feel like you're doing the work wrong. When in reality, that's exactly what the work is. It's to be faced with this mess, this ugliness, and to not hate it within yourself. To understand that it's a part of being a human being, and then to act in accordance with how you want to show up, how you want to feel, how you want to be as a person in this given moment, because you might change throughout your life. So I say this again, for anybody who's on a personal growth journey, who is starting out even, or if you're deeper in it like I am and you still forget sometimes, don't romanticize the work. If it feels messy and uncomfortable and ugly and gross and icky, sometimes that's a good thing. That means you're doing the work right, because it is like a purging in a sense, right? It's a catharsis in many ways. And to go through that catharsis, maybe even a process of rebirth, that's not pretty. That's not clean and tidy. It's messy. It's uncomfy. It's chaotic at times, right? And I'm not saying to lean into chaos or to lean into self-destruction or lean into self-sabotage, but you will experience those things at times. You will experience self-sabotage. You will experience, and it's to not look at that as a failure. It's to look at that as an opportunity to work through it a bit more, or to recognize that, okay, this is This is what I do sometimes. This is who I am at certain circumstances in my life. How do I feel about that? How do I want to move through it? How can I show myself a bit of compassion for it? How can I embrace this part of myself so that it doesn't feel like it has to be so loud all the time, so that I can calm down a little bit? You might never be able to remove these parts of yourself. I don't even think that's the point of it, right? I talk about this a lot with attachment styles and just other topics like this, where I don't think it's about getting rid of it. It's about recognizing that this is how you maybe innately show up, because it's what has been so deeply ingrained in you, and choosing different, choosing something with awareness and consciousness, right? That is more aligned with the person you want to be in accordance with your values and morals. Not the kind of person you think you should be because it'll look pretty or it'll be more worthy from external perspective, about who you want to be from the inside, and then allowing whoever aligns with it on the outside to align with it. So yeah, again, to reiterate, this journey, this process is messy, it's uncomfortable. So if you're experiencing mess and discomfort and pain, and it doesn't look pretty all the time, and sometimes you do things that you're like, ugh, I wish I didn't do that. That's part of the process. You're going to be faced with these things, especially if you've spent years shoving them down and trying to avoid them. Now that you're looking at them, yeah, it's going to look even worse because you're actually focusing on them. You're actually shining a light on them. You're going to realize how much more cluttered your space is than you thought it was. And that's okay. That's the point. Now you can actually start organizing it a bit and putting things in a certain place and understanding them better and recognizing what the significance of them is. Because sometimes those messy behaviors we have, there's significance to them. There's a reason why we use them as tools or strategies. Understanding that can help you recognize if it's still even a useful tool anymore. Maybe it still is, and that's okay. Maybe it's not, and it doesn't feel good. So maybe you can try and find a different tool to use. But it doesn't mean you have to completely look at it with hatred, because it served you at some point, right? There was a reason for it. And I think ultimately, again, this journey is just about understanding yourself and showing yourself compassion, forgiveness, respect, love, even in your messiest times, even with all your messiest parts showing and being exposed. That's the point. And that's not romantic. I mean, it can be if you look at it from a different perspective. Yeah, that's actually very romantic. What's more romantic than loving yourself or even another person in their mess sometimes, right? Isn't that the point ultimately? But I think from the, I guess, more, again, superficial, external perspective of what romantic is, right? Aesthetic, clean, tidy, pretty all the time. It can make it very difficult to continue on this process when you then start noticing these messy, ugly things crop up. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're doing it exactly right. And now you have a new opportunity to decide what the next step is. And that's all you can really do. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope it was informative. I hope it inspires you to continue on your journey and gives you a bit of, comfort and compassion toward yourself to continue on and not feel like you're doing anything wrong, or that you are somehow inherently bad because you can't get rid of these parts of you that are so messy. It's like, that's what being human is, unfortunately. So yeah, if you want to work with me one-to-one and just talk about these things, I'm not a therapist, as I always say. I just really love exploring them. You can book a call over on my website. If you want to read about these topics, I have a Substack archive with a lot of personal essays about these things. And I also have half of my podcast moving over there now. So you'll see that this podcast will be updated on my normal streaming services every other week. The other episodes are going to be on my Substack for paid subscribers. So if you like my work, if you want to support me, which I would really greatly appreciate, you can do that over on Substack. And follow me on Instagram and TikTok for the rest of my content. Other than that, thank you for listening, and I'll be back again soon with another episode.